welcome everybody. Today on Dave Cooper Live, we are talking about a 3D printing company driving the fourth industrial revolution and solving for extreme housing needs in extreme conditions. And we are hoping to welcome Ahmed, founder and CEO of Luton, a world-leading manufacturer of construction, 3D printing, and construction automation technologies, headquartered in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. Learn how their patented extrusion technology, robust 3D printers, proprietary software, and service offerings are able to fundamentally change current construction method life cycles and costs. Their offerings are tailored for various applications and users with technology that can be used by construction companies, sole traders, the defense industry, research space agencies, NGOs, and more. Their goal is to significantly reduce costs and the construction site carbon footprint and enable complex architecture and construction designs, introduce new high-paying jobs to the economy, and solve for the housing shortages, especially for extreme climates in remote rural locations. But first, we cannot deliver all these conversations and construction innovations without our sponsors. So a quick shout out to Forward Solutions Group. Forward Solutions Group is successfully driving companies to succeed where others have failed. Learn more about Forward's recent acquisition of ModuCore, an ERP solution for offsite manufacturing. Contact Ben Hershey at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. So that would be Ben at forwardsolutionsgroup.com. And also a big shout out to our friends at Howick. Howick Ltd has a long history of innovation in cold form steel manufacturing and producing innovative precision roll forming technology for customers throughout the U.S. and the world. Check out their machines buyer's guide for offsite and modular construction or fast build construction with light steel for framing. Visit their website at howickltd.com. Thank you both to Ben, Forward Solutions Group, and Howick for helping us bring all of these conversations to light. And today is no different. So today we were going to have Ahmed on the show, but we are running into some technical difficulties. They are on the other side of the world. So unfortunately, we're going to have to continue without him today and continue driving this conversation. So if you have any thoughts or questions on 3D printed housing, please let us know, and we're going to jump into it. So who is Luton? My good friend Jarrett Gross out there has interviewed and did some videos on Luton technologies. And where does Luton fit in to construction and innovation? Is it the piece of the puzzle, the whole puzzle? Is it going to solve housing? No, I don't think it's going to solve housing, but is it going to be one of the solutions in our toolbox? It absolutely is. Just like Icon, Luton also is working on space exploration and building on other planets. Their technology and the way they print homes and structures is much different than a lot of the other companies that we've had on the show. Icon, Black Buffalo, Mighty Buildings, and some others that are out there. So where is Luton really focused right now, and where are they taking their technology that makes them different than a lot of other people? And maybe everybody else is looking at this as well in the 3D home printing community, but they're looking to serve the rural or hard to get to areas, remote areas. I'll share with you this recent article that we had, and this is one of the reasons why we wanted to discuss this on the channel today. But they are focused on remote Indigenous communities to print their homes, and that's where their contracts are coming in. So I want to hear from you out there if you are joining us today and you are listening to what we are talking about, and you know a little something about 3D printed homes, please put a comment out there and we can have that discussion. It's going to be a fairly quick show today, and we are going to reschedule with Ahmed so you can hear from them directly and understand all of the things that they are currently working on. So if we look at the article here, I want to know from you out there, how many folks believe that there is a future for 3D printed homes? I'll be quiet so I can hear you answer. That's a joke. How many of you out there really think that there is a future for 3D printed home? We're starting to see it happen in the ADU market. We're starting to see some of the larger developers use this technology on their projects. There is a speed and time to this. Some people are using concrete and now they're using hemp with it. You know, I said this before, but we had on our show from Bow Modular in Switzerland, they said that the most sustainable home is the one you do not have to print again. How true is that? How true is it not? These are all things that we need to take a look at and we need to answer. So how does this work in a remote area? Can you use the local sand or the proprietary mixtures that these companies are all putting together? Are they sustainable? Are we reducing the carbon footprint by using printed homes, whether it's concrete or a mix of concrete? Let us know. That's what we want to understand, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So Jarrett, if you are out there and you want to join this conversation, feel free and let me know. We'll bring you on and you can chat for a minute as well. But this is kind of what we're looking at. Let me see, actually, if we have him out there, because we are on the fly this morning. Let me throw a link up and see if he is available, because I think this would be a really interesting conversation if you were to hear from somebody that actually focuses a lot on 3D printed homes. He's been somebody that I've been wanting to have on the show for quite some time. I'm going to do a LinkedIn message to him, see if he gets it, and say, hey, join me. You have a moment. So I just sent a link out. Let's see if Jarrett has time. The banner, yes, for sure. So let's talk about this as well, right? We got Luton is a world-leading manufacturer of construction 3D printing and construction and automation technologies, right? Let's talk about workforce development. And, you know, if we can train locals how to use the machines or other components of the build, for example, rendering the walls, there can be local crews trained to do each step. And this is one of the benefits of 3D printing of houses, because if there is an opportunity to have these machines in country and workforce development, especially in underserved communities, third world communities, whatever the case may be, this is a great opportunity, one, to put people to work, two, to use the natural resources around them to build their structures, and three, use the tools that can help them build several homes, I would imagine, a week, if not, you know, some would say even in a day, if that is possible. So workforce development is definitely a big thing. And Jarrett said he'll hop on in just a few moments. So we'll have Jarrett on too, who's an expert in the 3D printed home space as well. So what is the future or the potential for the future of Indigenous housing? What do we do? How do we grow? Not only Indigenous. I mean, if we think about what we have going on in this country, you know, there is a whole lot that has to happen for us to make up the housing that we need for the homeless population that's currently out there on the streets as well. And I think as we grow the technology and we grow how we're moving forward in the world of offsite construction, 3D printing is just another tool in the tool belt to move us forward. Now, the other side of 3D printing is, right, conventional buildings uses about 7 trades to build a wall. That's very true. With 3D printing, you only need a handful of people. I think 3 people, 4 people, maybe not even that with some of the machines. They're all a little bit different. You know, when we look at Black Buffalo, who we had on the show recently, and we did some work with them at the International Builder Show last year, you know, they are using a concrete mix, but they are also working with hemp. They are looking at using the concrete mix with the hemp fibers involved to take the concrete to a whole nother level, reduce the carbon footprint. But the hemp is actually going to help them bond the concrete together. So that is one solution. Mighty Buildings is a whole nother ball game. They're not even using concrete. They're using almost, it's like a polymer mixture, and they can actually not only use this polymer to build the shell of the structures, but they can live span as they're printing. I think it was 14 feet when we were out there, I believe. Jennifer, is that not accurate? Please correct me if I'm wrong. But can you imagine printing in the air and being able to cure that as they're printing? Now, that's another technology that's great. But again, you're not using local materials for that. There's a shipping side of this that all comes into play. So, all right, you guys all stay tuned. We're going to have Jarrett join us in just a few moments, which is going to help us continue this conversation and bring you awesomeness when it comes to 3D printed homes. We've been fighting the old flu season here in the Cooper family, so it's been a little bit long. Let's see here. Maybe Ahmed might be able to get back in too, so we might have him joining us as well. So this might turn into an awesome conversation if everybody can get their technology fixed. Super excited about that. So let's see what we have. Let's see what we have going on. Let me take down the Guardian post here. So I do want to hear from you. Where do we fit in with the 3D printing? Show the Luton website too. Yeah, I am definitely going to show that. I'm going to switch it up here, and we will go to the Luton website, and we can watch some videos on the Luton website as well. All right, here we go. I don't know if everybody can see that, but this is the inside of that 3D structure, 3D printed home. It's going a little quick. Henry Mickelberg, sorry, don't get it. Needs foundation, needs installation, compromises other trades. 3D printers compromises other trades. That's interesting. How does that compromise another trade, Henry, if you're in an indigenous rural area where there are really no trades? So I'd be asking that question. Good to see. I was just thinking about you this morning. And that's really, don't get your head too big. That's not what I think about first thing when I wake up. Printers don't run on hopes and prayers. Let's not forget that after the structure is finished, congratulations, you have 85% left to do. All right, so there is one comment. Let's see where this takes us. I appreciate you putting something out there, and we're going to talk about that. We'll have Jarrett on, and hopefully Ahmed will be able to join us as well. So let's just wait and see. Hopefully we got all of our tech issues out of the way, and we can get this going. How about anybody else out there, right? This is saying 60% construction way, 70% production time, 80% labor costs, all reductions. But Henry says differently. And I was also thinking, Henry, in indigenous places, do they have plumbing and running water, or is this more on the lines of just providing shelter? Because there is that side of it as well. And also, with the way these concrete structures are built, do you end up with a better insulated wall system that stays more of a constant temperature, especially in hot regions? Oh, we shall find out. Let's see. The fourth industrial revolution in construction printing. We said this in the opening. Here's some of the differences with Luton. As you can see, Luton on the top right there almost has a crane-like looking printer versus what we've been seeing in the past on the show, which is going to be the U-shaped, I would say, the upside-down U-shaped type printer that's going to work on a track. But Luton also has a system that can be GPS programmed. Right? It's on wheels. So it's a little bit different than what we've been seeing with some of the other ones that are running mainly on a track. Hey, look at that. Jarrett Gross is in the house. My God, did that boy shave? Jarrett, how are you, my friend?
Hey, how's it going, Dave? Good to see you.
Good. Yeah. We might have Ahmed joining us here in a minute from Luton. We've been having some tech issues today. So I saw we were just chatting in the comments. So I thought it would be good to bring you in. How you doing, Jarrett?
All right. What about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Where are you located at today?
I'm in Houston, Texas.
Houston, Texas. You're not from Houston. You're a New Jersey guy, right?
I have an apartment in Houston, so between travels, I'm in Houston now. What about you?
Yeah, nope. Back in Pittsburgh, sold the motorhome. Now we're back in a studio here in Pittsburgh, and I'm happy to not be traveling for at least another month or two, which is great. So, Jared, I saw you in a comment, and I want to make this a good show for everybody. And the person that I know that knows the most about, the companies out there doing 3D printing is yourself. So, why don't you give everybody a little quick spiel on who you are?
Well, I go by the title of citizen journalist. I independently film and document primary sources of construction automation projects around the world. I started in China in 2019 and then filmed a couple projects in the United States, went to Europe, visited 9 different countries there, back to the States, then to the Middle East.
Yeah.
And just trying to document as much construction automation as possible.
So let's talk about that a little bit, right? Because you had your main focus was always when you started was 3D printing. When you were looking at this, and
I was never really in love with 3D printing specifically, like plastic printing. I could care less about. There's a lot of great applications for like planes and biomedical applications. That's all great, but I'm only interested in construction and ways to automate construction, so that there's less labor involved. And 3D printing was the only method I saw that was really taking a significant portion of the job and not just changing where it happens, but making it happen without people.
So let's talk about that a little bit. 3D printing in itself. I mean, you've researched a lot of these companies. You've interviewed a lot of the executives at these companies around the world. What problem is 3D printing of houses solving in your mind?
Today, like with all new technologies, it's tough. There's a learning curve involved. And so the first TVs cost $10,000. And today you can pick up a 50-inch TV for like $200 at Walmart. So most technologies are similar. And I think prefab also, as fancy as some of the new tech can be, they're not faster, cheaper. They're faster usually. Prefab's fast, but cheap isn't always the selling point from the companies that I've seen. Maybe you've experienced something different.
Well, when you look at it apples to apples, it's definitely, when we look at offsite in general, it is not less costly upfront. And quite honestly, I say to everybody, why should it be? It's a better way to build. It's better construction, right? So is there cost savings in it? Absolutely. When you look at the entire life cycle of construction, right? If we're looking at sticks to sticks or, concrete to concrete, no, it's not going to work. If you're looking at, the reduction in labor costs, the reduction in insurance and overhead, liabilities, the reduction in callbacks because the unskilled trade laborers didn't get it right, and then the warranties, and then the lawsuits that ensue after that because people have mold and unhappy with their homes or what have you. That's where we have to look at the entire picture of what offsite does in by itself. But no, not definitely upfront. I think 3D printed structures, though, to me, and looking at what Luton's trying to do and others out there as well, just comes back to, like this whole indigenous side of how do we provide housing in very rural areas that do not have the skilled labor. Can you change, how many people does it take to actually run one of these machines? Can you train 2 or 3 of these people to run the machine and they can actually build homes in their community that otherwise wouldn't happen?
I don't know. It's not impossible. I'm always careful with how I phrase things like this because I'm hoping that it will one day make construction much faster, much cheaper, whether it's 3D printing or some other form of automation. Maybe it's a Tesla bot on site doing a job with the hand tools the way they were designed for humans to use them or something. But right now, nobody's shown me compelling evidence that it's faster or cheaper. Forget faster. Let's just talk about cheaper at the moment. That it's hard. People will convince themselves it's cheaper by discounting their own labor, especially after they've gone through extensive training, and they might be the only team in the world that can operate their printer. So they're irreplaceable. What's the cost of that? It's certainly not $10 an hour.
Yeah, well, it definitely isn't. But I guess in these indigenous places as well, can they use the local material to build with, or is there going to be a difference everywhere you are?
It's certainly unlikely. You probably have to import some materials. But if you have coarse sand that's fine locally, and fly ash and lime, you could have mostly local ingredients.
Well, cool. We have looks like Ahmed was able to join us. Let me bring him in with us. You want to stick around, Jarrett?
Up to you, whatever makes the show flow.
Let's do it. Ahmed, how are you, my friend?
How are you? How are you, Dave? How are you, Jarrett? It's good to be with
good.
you.
Yeah, so I invited Jarrett. We were having some internet issues on your end, so to keep things rocking and rolling, and bought you a little bit of time as well. It's good, and I know Jarrett's some of his videos are on your site, so I said this could be a really good fit for everybody. So, Ahmed, thank you for joining us. Why don't you take just 2 minutes to introduce who you are and what you do, and then we'll continue on the discussion. Sound good?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Dave, for having me. It's good to be with Jarrett again. To see Jarrett. My name is Ahmed Mahel, and I'm the CEO of and the president of Luton 3D. We are a company that manufactures large-scale 3D concrete printers. Our mission and objective is to automate robotics in general. At this stage, we feel the emphasis on 3D printing is something that would be in our best interest. We look to make printers more agile, more deployable, and sometimes we take on projects to print them directly rather than just equip companies with printers. But we believe we could do better and serve better if we just get better performing robots.
So Right. Well, one of the things we were just talking about, Jarrett and I, is, the whole article you guys did on the, building in these indigenous regions, and, really what is the viability of 3D printing and how viable of a solution is it moving forward as well? And I think, that's kind of it's really a good conversation because, Jarrett's traveled and covered a lot of the 3D printers and has done an amazing job with his YouTube channel as well. Maybe he could help us. Jen, did you hear that? Maybe we'll get Jarrett to help us on our YouTube channel. But I think overall, Ahmed, give us your 2 cents on this. Like, how do you see this working? How do you see getting the materials, the supply, the raw materials, and all those things to these areas to really make it affordable and cost effective for them?
Yeah, well, that project in particular. Something that I can reveal here, like some parts of it, we just got approvals to use just mud. We've been collaborating with some researchers in the university where we can get mud walls that are actually code compliant. That's under something we call the Adobe code here. So of course, if that's the case, then you've made it sustainable. The materials are local, but it requires some research to be able to pump mud in that sort of manner and 3D print with it. Back when we started, we experimented a little bit with mud and all that, because that has been in our forward thinking. A project like that, I think, shows how 3D printing can help. It's not about replacing. I know there are a lot of emphasis on it's better than traditional methods. It's to solve a problem. That's our first objective. Over there, it's just in regional areas, and I assume it's the same in rural places in America, that it takes you a long time. What costs you a brick or a baser block or a cinder block, as you call it, what costs you in the cities or close to the production site could be is not what it costs you when you go outside regional. So a brick that could cost you double or quadruple the price. And that's a problem. There's a shortage of materials at this stage. So it was a unique problem because a lot of folks with money in regional places have been hit with this issue. There are not enough builders and they can't get the materials. So when you reduce the amount of things that you need to, or trades to build a wall, whether it's a cinder block or it's brick and mortar, or even color bond and plaster boards directly and cladding. There are many systems to build those things. You replace all of that with one machine and one material. In the best case scenario, you can just dig some raw earth and print with that. But that is not what happens every time. This is still experimental. Um, but also still, if you can reduce the supply chain to one material, which is structural mortar or concrete,
Yep.
then you've saved yourself a lot of trouble. As for the price, yeah, I mean we have our own, and we can get to that in a while. But more importantly, is to have the local populace do their projects. They don't need to be 10, 20 years in that industry to be able to build a wall. They have a machine.
Yep.
They can use a phone, mobile phone, and they can communicate with the structural engineer and have someone who can access see what the printer is doing. Then why not? So that's the kind of solutions that this provides.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So, I love it, right? So we're talking about mud, or it's almost like clay. It's all right, like clay blocks, clay printing, and this is a conversation I've been having a lot with other people on how do we use the natural resources? Because guess what? There's pretty much mud everywhere in the world. Maybe not in the middle of the desert, right? But for the most part, most of the world has mud and clay. And how do we use more of that resource to build structures versus concrete versus some of these other materials that are obviously leaving a huge carbon footprint as well. So with that, you guys not only are looking at the indigenous areas, you have a very unique printing system, different than some of the other folks that are out there. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, that's our specialty. So we're like most other companies, we're vertical. So we do our own materials and we do our own robot.
Yeah.
Reason is we've tried the gantry system, something to put to bear. That most of us at Luton, at least the guys at the top, we used to teach robotics, so we know what's the difference between a gantry, issues with a gantry system. There are certain waggles, certain natural frequencies that you cannot circumvent, no matter how many sensors, extra sensors you put, how many extra rails you put. There will be that tiny, um, if you will, large wavelength throughout the system that you cannot just dissipate. So it was easier, literally, to use a self-propelled system that uses a crane configuration. And that's we also jumped to make it telescopic because we realized the big part of the cost. When you say at the time we were new, when Jarrett, I remember it was, I think we started this about the same time that when Jarrett started his channel. Remember we were watching his movie, his video about wind sun in China at the time. We were still working our materials. So we started with the gantry, realized it has a lot of mechanical problems. Some are innate because of the shape, and some you can address. And then we decided, okay, that is a better, yeah, that's one of the gantries we use, the Platypus Expeditionary, because we didn't want to use rails. And we
Right.
heard a lot of people talk the cost, but we calculated, we thought about the economics of this from the get-go. We are in a country that is people. It's not easy to just bring a new hive and people buy into it. You have to show that it works. It's really cheaper. If you say it's cheaper, okay, show us the math, and I assume it's the same at your end. The math didn't make sense. If you need a couple of cranes, couple of forklifts on site, it takes you a week to set up things. That doesn't mean it's gonna be cheaper. And then you go to the materials per metric ton, how much it is. We can't just keep saying cheaper, while in reality, no, it's not that cheap. So that's where the X12 came from. We said, okay, how about that's before we are discovering the issues with the gantry systems. We thought we would do something telescopic that come with one size and change the size when it gets to the site as needed. It was, and there are many telescopic systems around the world, and whether it's forklifts, all that. Why not come up with this nice amalgam that solves this issue, which is
Yeah.
deployability of the printers? And that's where the X12 came from. It moves from one side. It's as stable as any other large gantry you see outside.
Mhm.
Lifting heavy stuff, and rated for wind, all that sort of stuff. And literally takes, right now we've got to 10 minutes from the truck to the slab or to the side track. And I think that's a huge achievement.
So
Yeah.
10 minutes to unload it and set it up. Is that what you said?
Yes. We're gonna share some
And
videos recently. Yeah.
how much site work prep has to happen for this?
Well, for us, we came to a point where we need the ground compacted. So that is a tolerance because we
Yeah.
don't use any kind of rails. But
Yeah.
at certain points, if it's a bit muddy, if it's too much gravel, yeah, we will put one rail in the middle, but still it runs on wheels. It
Yeah.
can compensate. And that's the thing. In robotics now, you got a self-driving vehicles. There are a lot of startups that does that. I'm not sure if you heard of Zoox in California, for example. We pretty much took systems that are out there, and kudos to Zoox. It's a very innovative company. They have a self-driving bus that uses AI and can see people around.
Yeah.
We decided to do that with our printer. The sensors are out there. You just need to work on the technology, really, and
Right.
also on the PR if you want it to run on wheels. And I think we took our time with that one. Man, we were under
Sure.
pressure. Where is your
Yep.
big printer? Why are you not doing the right thing? Why is it inside, not outside? I was like, okay, we have a bigger ball game here.
Right.
Ahmed, did you when and why did you make the transition from concrete or mortar to mud?
It's not a transition. It's not a transition, Jared. It's an alternative
Mhm.
product we have, and that's because the response from the community. They want, they have seen rammed earth buildings that have been in their area, and it's been there for 125 years. One building in particular. And they go like, it has better properties, all that, and can we do something similar? And that's in collaboration with our colleagues, our friends, our partners, and University of New South Wales. Dr. Kate Dunn, kudos to her as well. And there is yeah, a lot of researchers apparently, and that's something we were not aware of. If you try to start to do a mixed design for concrete or mortar, it's easy. There are equations, there are certain formulas, but Adobe and the Adobe code and to make mud and all that. Yeah, it was a new thing for us, and it's sustainable. But until that point, printing with concrete, our eco-friendly concrete was the only thing that we could say it's certified.
Yeah.
Or code compliant, because that's where the testing, interlayer bonding testing, shear, compressive, all the barrage of testings we have to go through to convince the folks who will issue the certificates of occupancy that this is code compliant. So
Right.
we didn't have that for mud.
So where do you see the future of 3D printing, right? You guys have, you've been looking at space, you're looking at indigenous communities, traditional concrete, and then some of your own proprietary mixes. Now we're looking at mud and clay. So I know it's evolving, right? It's always evolving when it's new technology. Where do you truly feel that the future of 3D printing lies? And is there one space that stands out more than another? or is it kind of just a little bit of everything?
I would say there is most importantly is the robotics itself. The We can't have regress in robotics. We need to be progressive. I would look forward to have drones that goes to a certain place and start 3D printing. Uh, like we can do that with clay and plastic and other things, but it's not at that accuracy level. To stabilize a drone, it's not as easy as gantries, for example. You just scale it 1 to 4 or 1 to 6. Helicopters and drones are very complex. So it will keep evolving as long as other technologies, hovering technologies evolve, for example, that will affect 3D printing big time.
Yeah.
AI, where you have the machine, especially with the materials, where you have data sets and smart algorithms that can tell you more. Because thus far, it's one of the biggest issues most of us have
Mm-hmm.
with the materials to automate it 100%. You still need an operator there. And it's a structural thing. But I think we will see more exoskeletons, so that you can have maybe two guys. You don't need the forklift. One guy with one of them hydraulics exoskeletons take all the
Yep.
super stacks and feed into the printer. So
Right.
that's I believe it's gonna be in progress. Regress is a danger if we keep being satisfied with the current system, with the current way. This is
Sure.
where it is. So I believe that's where the future is, in better machinery, better algorithms, better materials. And at some point, we need it to be fully autonomous.
Yeah. So, the technology, Jared, you were saying it earlier, right? TVs used to be $2,000 for that 65 or 3,000 or 10,000 for a 65-inch TV. And as time and technology moves on and progresses, those prices come down. Then you pay $10,000, $15,000 for the next technology, right? And that's kind of what's happening. I see the same thing with 3D printing of buildings and houses, or even just the components, to speed up the components. And as the technology advances, obviously the cost to do the equipment's going to come down. But also, if you can get the materials, like you were talking about, mud, clay, concrete, hemp, all these materials that are being looked at in the industry right now, to work in different parts of the world or even out of this world, then there's some real viability to this. And it's still in the very beginning stages. I mean, Jared, you've seen companies all over the place, and I think that your take on this as it's growing in the what you've been doing this 2 years now, Jared, or something like that. I think when you really started on this journey, talking about these things, what have you seen as far as the advancement and the steps people are taking? I'd really be interested in hearing that.
It's advancing. I mean, when I got started, there was a short list of companies that were getting involved, and an even shorter list of printed homes that had been completed. In the United States, there were maybe a couple. At this point, there's over 30 printed homes in the United States alone, built or under construction. So from that perspective, it's been explosive. At the same time, 30 homes in a country of 300 million people is still really, really tiny. So it's got
Sure.
a lot of growth to go.
Yeah, but like Ahmed said too, right? I mean, if we're not exploring the robotics, the data collection, the materials, and how we advance, that's kind of where, we fall short if we don't continue. So 30 homes to me is, I mean, it's only like 3D printing houses hasn't been around all that long. Right? It's been being developed for many, many years. We're just starting to see it on the in the public more often, and it's starting to make more of an impact. When you start talking, even if it's 30 homes, but even some of the big developers are starting to use them a little bit or do the research. But I think the advancement of the technology on how this plays out is, I think what Ahmed was saying, is what we should be looking at, the robotics and the advancement, because it's going to lead to something bigger and better. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Good.
I agree, but here's the thing also with Jared. 30 homes, but still look at the publicity that it's having, the waves that it's creating across the world. You have one house, and I think it was Printed Farms or something in Florida. And look at the views, how many folks are interested, and the conversations. You just open this topic, look at the conversations it opens. It makes folks, uh, and this is my personal observation, just start to become more creative as they start exploring what they can do with that. And I think that's, but I think the most important thing is the next generation. Anyone who doesn't own a home yet, the future administrators, the future people who are born 1998 onwards, uh, majority of that generation, that they're not only sold onto uh, 3D printed homes and things made by robots, that they care about sustainability, they care about all efficiency, all of these things. So I think this is a technology, and this is a very important point. I always keep saying that, but I believe it to be true. It's not a
Yeah.
fluke. It's here to stay. And that's the case with robotics when it got in many other industries. Um, Once you make it more feasible, you by introducing uh, algorithms, data collection, all that sort of stuff, and it starts to become, because many folks who've been doing this for a long time thus far, I haven't seen someone say, "Ah, no, no, I don't care." It's there are a
Yeah.
couple of videos out there. Is the myths, the whatever, is it a gimmick? All that still doesn't. At the end of the day, everyone is interested. Okay,
Yeah.
how's the cost? How's the cost? And the cost, I believe, thus far, I know at least, I know that we cracked it. I know a couple of other companies in the States who have the right, correct numbers. The numbers make sense with the materials, with the deployability of their system, with that. We're not necessarily friendly with them, but I know they figured the correct number.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a start. Even that good number that it's really for reality, it's cheaper. It's shorter in terms of time. We're not just saying, "Oh, print hours time" or all that. But we know this is just a beginning, you know. And
Right.
then all kind of things that comes with this, smoothing the walls, having at some point, we saw the other company that's trying. In my opinion, that's over automation. Maybe at this stage, but trying to even automate the to put the rebars and stuff. But that reminds me of some of the video games I used to play, back in the day, where robots under one gantry do everything at the
Right.
same time. And I think that's the future. They're in the right plan, and that's the future. Yeah.
Well, and that's it. And, let's go back to the publicity side of this and the consumer and people being aware. I mean, it's time we ask for a better product, right? I say this all the time. You look at the pharmaceutical industry, when they used to get their product out there by sending Dr. Jared Gross and his family out on vacation, right? But then the government put a stop to that. Now what they did, they turned to the consumer and they said, "Hey, you need my purple pill. My purple pill is the better purple pill because this, and this," right? And that's kind of what we're starting to see in the construction industry as well. You keep having influencers like Jared out there, folks like myself pushing this out. Ahmed, you working on new technology and driving what's happening. We start to get people to think about different ways of building and questioning why it costs so much to build what we're building today. I mean, most people can't afford a home. It's out of reach completely for most. And I think we need to change how we're doing it and where we're going with this. And I think I said this Monday too, but I'll say it again. My good friend, Jerry McCaughey from Integra, right? He was one of the founders. Now he's, in offsite tech doing a lot of work. He always said, if you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got, right? In other words, nothing changes. I love that saying. It took me forever to figure out how he says it because he has an Irish accent and it blows my mind. But with that said, that's really how it works. And I think with what you guys are doing, and Jarrett, you shedding the light on some of the new technologies that are out there, whether it's 3D printing or other, methods of modern construction on your journey and how you showcase it. Because what Jarrett does really well is he brings it to the consumer audience, right? And I think that's really, really what's cool. What Jarrett does, we're more on the business side of things and talking. But kudos to you, Jarrett, for everything you've done and how fast you've grown your channel.
Yeah, I was under the impression that you're consumer facing as well. So your audience is mostly businesses, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, most of our followers are going to be executives and business people in general. Do we have a consumer following? Absolutely, we do. I mean, we're probably not to your channel, but we're averaging about 10,000 hours watched a month. But it's not subscribers, right? And the people on Dave Cooper Live, like Ahmed, they're here to hear what Ahmed has to say and say, well, how do I use this technology for my business, right? They're here to garner that information and gather it and then use it to their advantage. And I'm sure Ahmed and probably you as well, Jarrett, will have some people who hopefully reach out to you. But it's a little bit different on what we do and where our focus is. So
wow, 10,000 hours is a lot. Which is your main platform?
Our main platform is LinkedIn, and it doesn't tell you how many hours anybody watches. That's just YouTube. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what our average has been the last few months, and it's which is awesome. But we're long form format content. But again, we're here talking to business people like Ahmed and even yourself, Jarrett, because you're becoming a pretty good expert in some of this stuff. On where the industry is going, because investment bankers, business people that Ahmed works with his partners, they want to know what the next move is. How do we grow this? How do we make something better? And that's really what's cool about it.
Yeah, kudos to Jarrett as well. I remember we started at the same time as he started. He did our first video, so something about Jarrett, he always brings something new, some new company. Doesn't matter where. No problem where it is from, what they're doing with
Dave does too. Dave does the same thing I do for prefab, offsite prefab. So he goes to all the offsite prefab shows, the new technologies they bring out, and it's like the same thing, different niche.
Yeah. And it's really my pleasure, being featured by you both. Yeah.
So let me just put it. I flashed this up earlier. I want to put it up because this is important. Greg Ugaldi, who is the past chair of the National Association of Home Builders. So Greg is the guy that updates the President of the United States 3 times a year and Secretary of Housing on what's happening in the country on housing. So Greg, joins quite often, and he's on our show about once a month. Him and the head economist for the United States as well for the NAHB, and he was asking, Jarrett, Ahmed. The cost efficiencies to be advanced, what are they and how soon will the prices come down, do you see? Or are we still really in that development stage to where, prices are going to stay where they're at for some time?
No, I can tell you for structured mortar or concrete, it depends. There are a couple of players in the U.S. market that we know of who have cracked that price issue. Prices are down. But if you're gonna talk about timber, other issues, that is unlikely to come down anytime soon. And from our end, we see more people adopting 3D printing. Before I can tell you, before this supply chain issues, it would have been very hard for a startup from Australia to be able to crack into U.S. market as fast as we have done thus far. Hopefully, in the next phone call with Jarrett, I will tell him, you don't have to come to Australia. There is a place next to you where they're using our gear. You can take your nice drone, and maybe make a tour of that. So it's just the world situation, the supply chains, the geopolitics in Eastern Europe is something no one anticipated. It doesn't look like it's gonna go away anytime soon. If you've seen how this similar situation played out in the Middle East, in Syria, for example, it took 6, 7 years. I think it's still going on actually since 2015. That's when the response, and therefore you're gonna still have issues with timber. You're gonna have issues with supply chains in general, and this is we're talking about a country. It's a superpower. Imagine they don't control more than 2% of international trade, but look at
Yeah.
the mess that happened, and there will be. It would take a little bit of time. Um, the cost, as I said, for 3D printing, we do the following: we reduce the amount of trades you need to do a wall. We've compared it, whether you're gonna use color bond and cladding, brick and mortar and timber trusses, formworks and pouring concrete,
Mhm.
and there are many baser blocks directly. Um, so we know that you reduce the cost literally for the wall system, only the wall system, between 30% to 60%, depending on what system you're comparing it to. And that's to my knowledge, no one has done a study as thorough as this thus far.
Yeah.
We know when you replace all these trades with one robot, one system, it gives as a builder, it gives you that freedom. It will help reduce issues such as labor exploitation to people who look for cheaper labor and all that. We don't need to do these things anymore. If we all adopt the technology, it's just pointless. It will become pointless to get
Yeah.
cheap labor. Yeah.
So when we went, and that's a good point, right? And I always say is I say a lot of things always, I guess. And I keep saying that today, but it's true, right? So lumber went through the roof, up 300% plus. Right. Building supplies in general have increased significantly. And Greg, if you're still listening, where are the building prices today? I know they were dropping a little bit on the lumber side of it anyhow. But the reality of it is this, you make things so unaffordable and so unattainable for the average contractor, builder, or person out there. It opens the door for new innovation to come in, whether it is using mud, clay, hemp products, any type of polymer products, right? We have literally opened the floodgates, and now I think it's the perfect opportunity for us as a country or as a world, so to speak, to take, hey, now's the time. Let's showcase some of these new innovations. Let's showcase the other potentials that are out there, because this is the only industry it hasn't changed in over 150 years. I mean, it's sad. If you really think of it, it's sad. The auto industry's changed. Agriculture has more technology than the home building space. Now, when we look at 3D printing and robots and all that, and we look how NASA builds their, space stations up there, we have technology, but it has never been adopted to the masses in this industry. And that's what, in my opinion, and I'm sure Jarrett's as well, needs to change. We can't keep doing it the way we've been doing it. There's way too many people living on the streets. It's horrible. That's my soapbox.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The prices you see, there is a thing here. That I think is beyond our technology.
Yeah.
Our technology can help increase the amount of supply you bring to the market. It can help the accessibility of housing in rural and areas. It gives the local builder or local manufacturer an opportunity to compete for very articulate or sophisticated looking projects. However, how that would relate to the prices directly or to the shortage of housing, that is something else going on. But hopefully, that increase of supply, that when you make it easy, when you make it at least easy enough for someone to build his own house, hopefully at some point you can go to Home Depot and you're like, oh, can I rent the 3D printer? I just want to build an extra granny flat or something. And you take the 3D printer and run it and return it back. That's one way. That's one way to do it. That's a free business model for those who are thinking out there about buying our gear. That's one way to do it at some point. Right. But there is, I don't think we will reach that critical mass within, even if each of us, those who manufacture 3D printers, made 1,000 3D printer annually, we will not even be able to really have a big dent on this game. You know, this is
Right,
and
right.
therefore I'm saying it's good that we adopt this. We keep improving it. We keep perfecting it until hopefully by time when it's 2030, where the population of Earth will be about 10 billion. You know, you think it's crowded now. Wait a couple of years down
Sure.
it's gonna get really crowded, and then we
Wow.
better have these kind of
Yeah.
technologies in place that will help us to, if you will, afford
Yeah.
housing for all these new humans.
Yeah, automation is definitely the future. It's the only way we're going to catch up. Clearly, if the way we're doing it works, we wouldn't be in the position we're currently in globally with affordability and people living on the streets. So there's not a soul out there that can convince me that the old school way of building is still the way to go. Is it going away? No, we still need all the trades. You need them all, right? Not only for new infrastructure, but you need them to help maintain the existing infrastructure that's out there as well. And I think 3D printing, offsite panel, modular, CLT, mass timber, all of this has its niche or its place in our industry. But it's the collective group of all of us that are going to drive this forward and really make a big impact. So, all right, we're out of time for today. Ahmed, and then Jared, I'm gonna give you a chance as well. Ahmed, tell us how people get a hold of you, and also one of the things we didn't cover is, who right now are your customers? Who are you looking for to work with?
Okay, we're looking for anyone who's building 100 houses or more. We provide we're looking for builders, developers, whoever. We provide the printer, the pumping system included, the training, and we build the first house with you. But you need to have that kind of volume, so you can help us, and we can help you to achieve those lower prices that everyone to make it feasible, to make it worthwhile.
Correct.
Contact us at luton3d.com. It's luton3d.com. That's our website. Whether you want a small printer with a small budget at some university laboratory, or you're a big conglomerate that builds a lot of houses, we're happy to get you. Yeah.
And geography. Somebody was asking where. Does it matter where they're at?
It doesn't matter any longitude and latitude except maybe North Korea, I guess, and the South Pole. You'll get a printer. All right.
I love it. I love it. Well, Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us. Jared, go ahead. Why don't you plug yourself a little bit there and what you got going on, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Yeah, you can check out some videos of Luton's work and the other 3D printed construction companies. Just search my name on any platform or at Automate Construction. Either one of those should get you there.
Awesome. So perfect. All right, listen, everybody, that is a wrap for today. Make sure you join us for this Friday, BS Friday with Mark Bare Naked Willie. We will be discussing building science and moving this industry forward. So make sure that you tune in and we will go from there. It looks like those guys hopped out already. So I'm Dave Cooper. Appreciate all the patience today getting this show off the ground. Had some technical issues, but had some fun with it as well. We got to bring in Jared Gross. I cannot wait for our coffee with Dave. We got a lot to catch up with this weekend. So there you have it. We'll see you this Friday, 1 p.m. Make sure you're there and make sure we're building it better. We'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.